So I know we had a lot of fun last week talking about how underrated hand jobs are, and they are, but now we're going to see the aftermath of a back alley handy, and it's never good. It's never something that's as pleasant as you want it to be. It's very awkward, it's very uncomfortable, it's very sad, and particularly for these two characters, if we are being real, you know, Denji, of course, has always craved this intimacy, and it seems like one of the themes of the entire manga is the fact that he is so isolated and desperately, underneath the surface, really wants a deep connection with somebody. And then you have Asa, on the other hand, who was introduced as sort of this social outcast, extremely awkward, doesn't really know how to interact with people whatsoever. And of course, every time an act of intimacy is brought up or something sexual is brought up, she's always very dismissive, like, ew, I would never do that. That's not me, you know. Basically, as a defense mechanism, as trying to like protect herself from putting herself into an intimate situation like that and kind of being forced with that straight up, you know, connection with somebody, that straight up deeper connection. It's like, it's almost as if Denji hides it by being overtly sexual, where Asa hides it by restraining her sexuality. It's sort of like they both do, on a deeper level, crave that intimacy, but are just ill-equipped to be able to handle it, ill-equipped to be able to be within that situation, as this chapter proves. You know, jokes aside, like, what happened wasn't really anything to be celebrated. It was an extremely awkward situation. But you can look at it in a couple of ways. You can look at it like, you know, with the themes of the manga, I think that it was important to the story. I do think it was important to the story because Denji has been in similar situations before, but as the story progresses, we have to continue to push it farther. And I also think it makes sense for the merger of Asa and Yoru and how the longer that they are together, the more, you know, feelings and ideas and personality traits of both of them start to assimilate even more. And that's what it seems to be building up towards. What that's going to lead to and how that plays into the lore of how this stuff works in Chainsaw Man, I don't know. I can't tell you that. It just seems like the more and more that they've shown Asa and Yoru together, the more they kind of are becoming one being. It seems like it's sort of going in that direction, at least to me. But yeah, we see the aftermath here, and you know, she looks at her hand, she says gross, which is the worst thing that you want to hear. I mean, that's like the biggest turnoff of all time. I mean, come on. But actually, going along with the assimilation of the two, the last chapter ended and seemed to imply that Asa regained control immediately after, you know, Denji finished. But here, Yoru is shown right off the bat to kind of still be in control. So I don't know if that is like a retcon or if it's a way to say, you know, Asa was aware and knew that this was happening the entire time. We just kind of saw a brief glimpse of her awareness before it went back to Yoru, because as Yoru walks away, obviously Asa begins to take a little bit of control over again and starts to beat herself up about it, literally and figuratively. And Denji brings it right back to this. He's like, do you like me? And she says, no, I don't like you. It was from the other person. You know, I only kissed you because it felt good. So once again, just this immense confusion for Denji on how he's supposed to react and how he's supposed to respond to this. Because, like I said, although, you know, what he puts out there into the world is sort of this overt, like, hyper sexuality, what he wants is for somebody to actually give a shit about him. He wants the sex, but he wants the sex to come from somebody who actually is going to be there, that actually likes him for who he is as a person and isn't going to try to murder him or betray him or fight him or rip his penis off or any of the other crazy things, blow him up, you know, whatever else has happened in the history of Chainsaw Man. He doesn't want that. And both him and Asa just don't really understand intimacy whatsoever. But on top of that, I do want to say that these characters are teenagers, right? And so they are experiencing. So if you take a step out of the story, like out of the context of the story, and you're looking at it as I don't know, like an analogy for life, you know, if that's the kind of thing you want to do with Chainsaw Man. I think their responses are actually pretty normal for how teenagers kind of handle the first time experiencing these sort of things, where you kind of wonder, okay, do you really really like me? Or, you know, sometimes, you know, your bodies just get really horned up and you get like into the heat of the moment, and then after it's over, you're both really awkward with one another. You're like, oh, I don't really know what that meant. I don't know. And even with Asa, you know, where she starts to attack Yoru and stuff. Why did you do that? I sense we kissed before. I was only confirming my suspicions. It felt good. And then she's like, you know, I thought you liked him. Shouldn't you be happy? No, he'll think I'm a slut. All that kind of stuff. I feel like that's a normal, you know, kind of thought process for a teenager, or a teenage girl in particular, kind of going through that first experience of like, you know, I wanted to do it, but did I? And did I do the right thing? And is he going to think lesser of me now? And that sort of thing. That's all like common shit for people having their first sexual experiences. So it's, you know, I know that in the story it means something different because she literally assimilated with a devil and like it's a back and forth thing. But like, I think in real life, you know, people would have that back and forth conversation with themselves. Like, you know, it's like, did I like him, but did I want to do it? And it's like, I don't want him to think I'm a slut and all that kind of stuff. And it just feels, you know, in a series that's so bombastic and crazy, it feels like a pretty grounded moment to have, actually. And then from Denji's point of view, you know, you have this guy that's every single time he has intimacy with a girl, or a girl shows attraction towards him, or, you know, grabbing his junk in a movie theater or whatever they're doing, he's always like, do you like me? Like, is this a thing? Like, is this gonna go somewhere? And it's like, no. And it's always no. Even if it's good in the moment, afterwards you're like, well, what was that? Like, what was the point then? You know? And the mixed signals that he's getting, of course, she's like, no, I don't like you, immediately after kissing him, which, again, is probably something that is relatable and realistic, and something that, you know, I'm sure people have gone through, where they've had situationships like that, or friends with benefits like that, or sexual encounters like that, where it's like, you know, you feel something, you feel the connection, it's good, it's like, oh, you know, it's like, are you like me? Like, we're doing this? She's like, and it's just like, no, I don't like you. Kisses you goodbye. I'm gonna leave now. You know, it's like you get done fucking, and then they're just like, well, I gotta go. It's like, well, I mean, you want to stay and like hang out, or do you want to like cuddle or something, or we could, you know, round two or anything. No, you're leaving. Okay, well, bye. You know, common situation that happens in life. At least, well, anyways, it's happened. And then you have that post-nut awkwardness where they can't even sit next to each other on the bus anymore. And it's, you know, a lot of it is a lack of communication as well. A lot of it is them not being able to express what they're actually thinking and what they're actually feeling. And a lot of it is them protecting themselves, or, you know, just kind of falling back into despair, as Denji seems to be doing right now. It's like, this was the thing that he kind of wanted to do, and now that he got it, it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And now it's just going to cause even more awkwardness than had been there before. So, you know, as silly and ridiculous as Chainsaw Man can get as a series, like, I do feel like the situation that is at play, like, yeah, we had to see it in the way that we saw it, and it's super awkward, and like, you don't necessarily want to see your main characters jizz on a manga panel. I could totally get that. I could totally understand that. But I think the post, you know, sexual encounter, first time awkwardness, like trying to protect each other, not getting what you actually want, not being real with the person that you're doing it with, and having that kind of awkward, silent separation afterwards. I think that it's actually a pretty decent representation of like, you know, first time encounters, or and what could become of it, or what happens with it when there's, you know, not deep, meaningful, like, connection beneath the surface, you know? So I think it works for what the story is trying to do. That's all I'm essentially trying to say. But beyond that, there's not really anything else in this chapter. They do get to the sushi restaurant at the end, so, which normally, you know, you want to take the girl to the sushi restaurant and have a good time first before the back alley handy, but, you know, not everything can be perfect. Sometimes we got to do things out of order. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this chapter of Chainsaw Man, and we'll see where it goes from here. I figured I should comment on this one because of the last chapter. Again, I'm not going to do chapter reviews for every single Chainsaw Man chapter that comes out, but there are times where there's definitely discussions to be had, and I think that this moment is certainly one of them. So let me know what you guys think down below. Leave your thoughts, comments, opinions. Give the video a like and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have links to Patreon, channel memberships, merch store, and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.